Hello everybody and welcome to the first video in our series of videos on the Middle Ages. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes, so by the end of this presentation you guys should know what the feudal system was and how it worked. You guys should know the keywords fief, vassal, fealty, demense and manor, and you guys should know how the feudal system came to England. So we are going to start looking at a period of time known as the Middle Ages, sometimes called the medieval times, or sometimes known as the Dark Ages. We usually date the Middle Ages from around 500 CE to about 1500 CE, but the dates are pretty arbitrary or random. The main reason we pick these is because it signals the time between the end of the Roman Empire in 476 CE, which brought an end to a certain way of life, and the beginning of a new way of life brought about by the discovery of the Americas in 1492, which brought enormous wealth to Europe and as well as calorie-rich foods, which led to a surge in the European population. So, why is this 1,000-year period known as the Middle Ages? It is because there's not a lot of change in how the countries are ruled at this time, how society is organized, or even in technological advances. Now, it is important to note that when we talk about the Middle Ages or medieval times, we are talking about Europe, and for us, more specifically, we're talking about Northwest Europe, that being kind of Ireland, Great Britain, and France. In the Middle Ages, the Islamic Empire is going through a golden age of learning and technological and philosophical advancements. At this time as well, China was probably the most advanced society in the world, while there was great kingdoms rising in Western Africa, like the Kam and Buru and the Mali empires, and there was also great cities in the east of Africa, like Mogadishu and Mombasa. So it is just mainly northwestern Europe we're looking at. So what was the 1,000-year period like in northwest Europe? Well, society was primarily structured in what we call a feudal system. At the top, as you can see from the diagram, there was the king. Underneath him, you had barons or lords and bishops. Below them, you had knights, and below them, you had the peasants, the serfs, the craftsmen, and the villagers. So, how it worked was the king gave land to a baron or a lord or a bishop, and these were his tenants in chief. There was a ceremony for handing over the land. Now, each piece of land was known as a fief, and in return for his fief, or new bit of land, the lord swore an oath to become a vassal for the king, in which he promised to provide knights for the king. So a vassal was someone who would provide knights for the king and would be beholden to him. To get these knights, the barons or the lords would give some of their land as a smaller fief to the knights. This land was generally called a manor, which were usually villages with some land around them. They would keep some land for themselves, and this was known as a demense, and they would divide the rest among their tenants or peasants who gave services to the knight or the lord in return. Now, the feudal system was brought to England in 1066 by a man known as William the Conqueror. William was from a place in the north of France known as Normandy, and his people were known as the Normans. We'll be looking at them in more detail when we're looking at the Middle Ages in Ireland. But the Normans had originally been Vikings who had settled in the north of France in the 10th century. They were given the land because they kept raiding, and a king had given the land to try to get them to stop raiding. So they settled there. But then they began to move north, and in 1066, William defeated the King of England, the Anglo-Saxon king known as Harold Godwinson, and he defeated him at the famous Battle of Hastings. This event is captured in a real famous piece of art from the Middle Age, one of the most famous pieces of art, known as the Bayeux Tapestry. This tapestry is a woven piece of art which is 70 meters long and has over 50 main scenes in the linen background. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So you guys should now know what the feudal system was, the parts of the feudal system, how it worked. You guys should know what the keywords fief, vassal, fealty, demense, and manor are, and you guys should know how the feudal system came to England. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.